Lifeweaver is straight trash, both in terms of hero design and its power level for most ranks. Let me explain why. I'm being a bit hyperbolic there, but you get the point. Now, I don't want to reiterate the talking points that you've already heard of with this hero, so I've split this video into each of his abilities, the potential problems they have, and at the end, I'll talk about why I don't think this hero is going to be very good for most players. Firstly, let's cover your weapon. Your Healing Blossom heals an ally for up to 65 HP and takes 1.2 seconds to fully charge from what I've heard. Now, I'm not sure if you've seen, but there was a clip of Flats trying to heal both bots in the training range up to full HP, and it took him a straight 15 or so seconds to do so. That is really not a good sign.
So you'll see I'll start with both of them pretty low health, and watch how long it takes me with the very minimal bot damage to get both of these two bots to about full health. Ready? You're not going to believe this. I will say, the healing is a little bit low.
Now, the charge up isn't necessarily the issue, since that's still roughly Mercy levels of healing, but including the travel time, and you're looking at a hero who does healing comparable to a Zen. And it's even worse than a Zen, since at least with Zen's Orb, you can set it and forget it, not needing to wait almost 2 seconds before you can actually heal someone. Fortunately, what's more interesting is your second weapon, which seems to be inspired by the Needler gun in Halo, where you can shoot a bunch of thorns with no fall-off damage, dealing around about 110 to 120 DPS. Now, this is probably the best designed part of his kit. The thorns look satisfying, and gives Lifeweaver some play potential from short to mid-range. But, unfortunately, as Sparlow and Samito have pointed out, they're separate weapons like on Mercy, and not different or alternate firing modes like on Kiriko, Baptiste, or Moira. This means that for literally no reason whatsoever, the devs have decided to force their own players to add another input before you can either heal or damage. I literally don't know why they decided to do this. I wish I could tell you, but this is just going to make Lifeweaver feel more clunky for no added benefits. I mean, for fuck's sake, his name is already clunky. It sounds like something ChatGPT would come up with. But the problems just start there. We haven't even touched into his abilities. I'll start off with the simplest one in his Rejuvenating Dash. Nothing much to say here, to be honest. It's basically a Hanzo lunge that heals you for 25. You'll mostly use this from ability to jump to certain high grounds or from ability to escape danger. Where the real juice and controversy lies is on his next two abilities. Now his second ability, the Petal platform, is actually somewhat interesting, but it just looks a bit clunky to use. And, as you'll see with the reoccurring theme in Lifeweaver, to get full value out of your platform, you need to have team coordination. For instance, Karku mentioned in his video that the platform is good for like a Reinhardt to clear high ground, and he's absolutely right. On maps like Oasis City Centre or Hollywood first or second point attack, it's long and tough and strenuous for Reinhardt to clear high grounds. But with Lifeweaver, that's no longer an issue. But what the actual issue is that you need coordination to pull this off. And it's unrealistic to expect your average Plat Lifeweaver and your Platinum Reinhardt to organise this. I doubt your average Platinum Reinhardt even knows what clearing high ground is. And that's probably why your Petal platform is best used selfishly to allow yourself to take high ground or to use it to peel for yourself. But honestly, there's supports like Baptiste, Kiriko, Lucio, and Mercy who either have passive abilities to take high ground or they can take it with a very short cooldown. This is 12 seconds long. But that's not the worst part of his kit. That's his life grip ability. Where do I begin with this? So for those who don't know, Lifeweaver can pull an ally from 30 meters away, giving them an invulnerable shield too. Life grip is also on a 20-second cooldown. Now, I don't want to spend too long on the trolling you can do with this hero, because you've already heard and seen it before. Pulling people off maps and back into spawn is already an issue in itself, and people have already theorized solutions, like a consent button to being pulled by Lifeweaver, or some kind of tether mechanic. It is worth mentioning that people like SVB have raised a good point that trolls will troll anyways, so in a team that's actively trying to win a game, you shouldn't really worry about being pulled off the map. But I actually want to talk about the more subtle side of it, and the side that worries me most, which is the unintentional trolling of life grip. And this is something that Flats briefly brings up.
I really do not like the idea of teammates being to pull me away, especially as a tank player. I get like 3 kills and like, you're like, I can't see you, I can't see, like, I can't see you, and I'm like, yeah, I know, it's fine though, I have 400 HP and I'm on 1v1ing an Ana with no abilities. I'm not really that scared, you know? And it's like, you know, what happens if I'm actually gonna win a fight and because I'm making a play, they don't realize that, they don't see what I see.
Now, a counter response to this is that players unintentionally troll or make misplays all the time. Whether it's an Ana missing her nade, a Baptiste missing an immortality, etc. People affecting other people's games unintentionally happens all the time. But my main response to that is that in Overwatch, we've never seen an ability like Life Grip that completely 100% removes player autonomy and agency. It's way more frustrating trying to make a play and getting completely shot down by a friendly Lifeweaver than trying to make a play and your support just happens to miss a shot onto you and you miss out some healing. In that kind of situation, you still have agency to make that play and learn from it, rather than that play getting completely shot down by a Lifeweaver who might not even be bad, but just hasn't got the information that you do. Making an ability that directly affects the gameplay of others is not a fun mechanic, and it's frankly horrific game design. I don't know who thought of this. Now at the pro level, this could be used in the right hands. You could enable an extremely aggressive play, like a Reinhardt pinning straight onto an Ana Zen, whilst being relatively risk-free, because the Reinhardt can just be pulled out. Same thing with any tank or any DPS really, that wants to make an aggressive play. But for the general player base, this doesn't look healthy. Now onto your ultimate. Your ultimate is called Tree of Life, which spawns a pulsing tree that gives 150 healing upon placing it down and gives you 50 healing per pulse. The tree also has 1000 HP. Honestly, there isn't too much to say about your tree, and it doesn't seem problematic gameplay wise. However, just like with Remarch's Annihilation, this just feels like lazy and boring game design. Like, the devs cannot be dead ass about adding a stationary transcendence. Junker Queen's, Kiriko's, and even Soldier's ultimates felt fluid. They had unique aspects to them, as well as providing high play potential, but this shit just looks like a warm-up transcendence. The most interesting use you'll get out of this is placing the tree on maps like Legion Night Market, where you can put it in the middle of the points during the mid-fight, forcing the enemy team to either play in that Tree of Life or run away, similar to Remarch's Annihilation. But to be real, this ultimate just looks boring and underwhelming. And lastly, there's your passive, where you drop a mega health pack for allies or a mini health pack for enemies on death. It honestly looks like a dumbed down version of Scout's candy cane from TF2, and for those who don't know, whenever you killed someone with the candy cane, they dropped a mini health pack, which actually incentivized players to actively get value out of their passive. But on Lifeweaver, I just don't see the point of this competitively. They could have made this something creative and something to actively get value from, like Sombra's passive or the wall climbing passive, so it makes sense as to why people like Spylo hated Lifeweaver's passive. Me personally, I actually like novelty in video games, even if it seems a bit gimmicky, since it can add to their character. It kind of reminds me of Zophia's Withstand in Rainbow Six Siege, which was pretty much useless, but it showed that Zofia was a resilient character willing to get back on her feet, even when she's bleeding from bullets. Likewise, Junkrat's passive adds to Junkrat as a character being dumb, slightly crazy, and slightly gimmicky, and Lifeweaver's passive shows that he's a generous, caring character, even for the enemies he's fighting against. So in summary, the overall hero design is kinda whack. The hero looks clunky in places, takes away and requires agency from his teammates to actually be useful, meaning in a solo queue lower SAR environment, he doesn't look that strong. With that being said, how do you actually play him? Well, you can wait for my full Lifeweaver guide about that coming next week, but as an early sneak peek, I was talking to Spylo about this in my DMs, and he said that Lifeweaver seemed like a hybrid of Zen and Kiriko. In other words, Lifeweaver's mobility and damage lay somewhere in between the two heroes. He can deal more consistent damage than the Kiriko, but not as much as a Zen. He has more mobility than Zen in order to reposition to different high grounds, but he hasn't got as much mobility as Kiriko to where you can just hard flank and TP back to safety. On maps like King's or Third Point Attack, I think he's actually going to be quite strong. You're one of the few supports who can reach high ground and dish out meaningful, consistent damage compared to a Kiriko, Lucio, and certainly a Mercy. However, where Lifeweaver falls is his utility. Your life grip can either be, at best, a lifesaver, or at worst, an ability that works to your detriment. Your healing output looks atrocious, handicapping the comps that you can play Lifeweaver in. My guess is that he'll be best with Ana, since Ana can make up for his lackluster healing output, as well as providing reliable, consistent utility, but for now, we'll see. And that's it for the video. Please let me know your thoughts down below on what you think about Lifeweaver. I'll be responding to your comments as usual, and until next time.